Hey,
Hello.
thank you so
The
much.
beard has gotten bigger.
It has. I am, I am, I'm becoming vast and monstrous in quarantine. Uh, Everyone, um, I'd like to introduce you
Yes, yes.
to Jeanette. Um, Now, I will admit a couple of times now I have looked up your last name to try to make sure I can pronounce it right. But can you give it to us yourself?
It's ng.
Ing. Okay. It's not like a commonly occurring English
It's
phoneme. Um,
um it happens at the end of all ngs.
um, so,
Like you make it like half a dozen times a day when you grunt. It is just a grunt.
mm, mm, mm,
Yeah.
okay.
Ugh.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, see, there we go. Now I.
It's a sound made in frustration.
Oh, man, that's a great mnemonic device. Now I'll always, it's like Jeanette. Mm. Uh, that sounded bad, though, and it felt bad to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's great to get a chance to chat with you. I'm sorry that it's taken so long, and since we've got a chance to hang out, everybody I got to know, I met. Actually, here, would you like to briefly introduce yourself, and then
No.
I'll briefly talk about why I love you?
Um Hello. I'm Jeanette Ng. I wrote a fantasy novel. It's about missionaries who go to fairyland. Things go very poorly for them for obvious reasons and a few less obvious reasons, I suppose. Um, I won the award now known as the Astounding Award. It was previously known by well, um, I can call myself the last person to win Joseph Campbell Award, but John W. Campbell. I hate both Campbells, but it is John W. Not Joseph. And yeah, I called him a fascist on stage. That is my one claim to fame. Um, a lot of people who have been campaigning for a very long time to change the name capitalized on that moment. A lot of things. I mean, coincidentally, that Al Naval Ali, who was writing a biography of the various kind of greats of that era, his book came out of the same year, and it was not exactly an expose, but it kind of brought a lot more of the unpleasant side of things to light that people kind of half forgot about. Um, and so there was a move to change it, so it's now the Astounding Award after the magazine. That's still ongoing. Uh, my speech then won a Hugo the year after because because Worldcon does love congratulating itself. Um,
Oh,
I mean, it was a chance to pat themselves on the back for having done a great thing. So,
I mean,
and I am also deeply humbled by the attention. um, um,
both are fair. You can
but
do both
both
at the
both
same
of these
time.
are true. And that was basically it. That is most of the things I have done. I have like a constellation, like a random grab bag of short stories and articles. I occasionally do journalism.
I will say, she's hit it. The last Worldcon I went to, and actually the first Worldcon that I've been to in a long time, was that one, and so I was up there
Oh,
in the rafters in Dublin, um, and you went up and you gave your speech, and you're like, so flattered to be here. You can see it online. It's going to be so much better than my paraphrase, but it's like, I'm so honored. Also, the person that this was named after was a fascist, and
yeah. Gosh, that was my first line.
I
Yeah.
was like, and I'm like, I'm like, I like this person. I am a new fan. I'm like, where are they so I can follow them on social media? Um, and then she just kept swinging through the whole speech, and I'm like, fucking a, yes. And so yeah, it's great. Also, she says that she's sometimes written some articles or blogs. She's done, in my opinion, like some really great work, not just in terms of the sentiment or what she's trying to accomplish, but in its execution. Writing about the Mulan live action, or rather the sentiment surrounding it. I read some of the things she wrote about it and then talked to my friends about it, which by itself, it's like, hey, I read, how often do you say like, hey, I read a blog, and then you gotta go tell someone? But I did. But the thing that I said is because like you were so marvelously like excoriatingly scathing, like just in this beautiful, like poetic, like so good in your craft. And I what I said is like, I would rather have her write a review of my book and how she hated it than almost any other person write a review saying how much they liked it, because like it would be such a thing of beauty to hear how she would be angry at my book. I would just want to see that. So again, I am very, very fond of not only what Jeanette does, but who she is. And I a lot of times use the charity as an excuse to hang out with people that I like. So I invited her in, and she was very gracious enough to accept. So to start off first, the question I've been leading with a lot, because we're trying to focus on joy in a dark time. You know, it's the whole world is kind of going through a rough patch right now. And you know, we could do the traditional charity thing and say, hey, all you rich sons of bitches, you have money and the world's on fire. Why aren't you doing more? Feel bad. And then because you feel bad, give us this money. And then you get to feel good about yourself for a while. It's like, no, that's not our jam. Because a lot of the people who would like to help don't have a ton of money. A lot of people are already donating to causes, you know, where a lot of people are in our economic hardship just because of the pandemic or any other number of reasons. So, you know, we like to make a space where people can come in and donate if they have money available. But also we want to talk about things that make us happy, because, you know, focusing on joy in a dark time is in itself an act of transgression and defiance. And I gain power by being defiant and transgressive. So I won't take care of myself for good reasons. But if I feel like I'm sticking it to the man, I guess I will focus on joy a little bit. So I'll say, like, what is it lately, something that has made you happy, or what in general do you find joy in? Like model trains, or butterfly collecting, or butterfly catch and release. You have a dog. Tell me about your good dog.
Reva's downstairs at the moment because she can whine when she doesn't have enough attention. She's a rescue. Very good friend of mine. Their partner's parent passed away and left them a dog, basically. And she's a rescue dog. She's from Romania. She moved in with us just like literally the weekend before lockdown, so she's kind of become a bit of a lockdown dog for us. I honestly don't know what we've been doing without her. It's very strange having a dog, because we kind of look at her and go, good God, why do we have a dog here? Almost constantly. But.
I do not, I grew up with a dog. I do not myself have a dog now. And sometimes when you send me dog pictures, it fills the yawning void in my life of not having my own dog. Uh, I don't know if I have the emotional space to actually have a dog right now myself. Uh, but I like seeing yours as, on a bit of a timeshare, as it were.
Well, we didn't. I didn't mean to have a dog. We just happened to have one because my friend was like, "Oh, you like dogs, right, Jeanette? Will you like dog sit for us for the next 6 months to a year?" Because they hadn't they live in London in a flat where they can't have a dog, and there was like a vague plan to move somewhere where they could have a dog in like 6 months to a year, but obviously everything else happened, so it's and she's very settled here, and it sort of tricked us into owning a dog. We're dog foster parents.
Yeah, that's actually how my sister got her first cat. Is first apartment, you know, as an 18-year-old, moved in with a roommate, and you know, like you think it's like, oh, this is my best friend. This will be the best roommate experience ever, and it always blows up because nobody knows how to be a good roommate out of the gate, and that person flaked and bailed and like bailed on the lease, bailed on their stuff, including their cat, and so like congratulations, you now are a pet owner. Yeah. Um,
Does she like cats?
Oh no, yeah, it was not a burden. That was a blessing in disguise. What I will say is, I know I kind of want to talk to you about.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
so I'm down a schedule to talk about Renaissance drama, and I'm taking issue with that because the
Okay.
Wakefield mystery plays are 15th century, and that's a medieval play. Thank you very much. So I don't know how to
I
keep in, Pat, but
I honestly, I kind of threw that in, partly because spelling medieval right on the first time is hard for me, and and but also partly because, and I'm like, I wonder if she'll say anything.
what I want.
and and I'm like,
It is literally the jewel of medieval theatre.
it is, it is, and so you are correct.
And it happens notably before the Reformation.
Oh yeah.
Because it has all the Catholic references. They have to rewrite it for the Protestantism afterwards.
Yep. Yep. And I mean, it's one of the
It was a whole thing.
it's one of the
Very
rare
funny.
ones that survived the Reformation, whereas there were like untold other mystery plays out there that just burned.
We should probably explain what we're talking about
Maybe
to anyone who's watching.
maybe we should. So um how about this? Oh, there we go. So how about this? Um, could you do me a favor? And because I have as intended, I have clearly demonstrated I don't know anything. See, there's nowhere to go but up for me from here. Would you briefly explain like what we're talking about when we talk about the mystery plays, and it'll give me 2 minutes to go and quick use the bathroom?
Right, sure.
Ha ha ha.
Right. Mystery plays. So I thought Pat was gonna segue into this because he was discussing kind of joy in dark times, because mystery plays have kind of had that association of being that sort of, well, scratch that. The segue is nowhere as keen as I thought it would be. Mystery plays are plays that are done during the Middle Ages, usually around church. They're played outside of wagon, and they're done by companies of men. And they're always about biblical subjects. It is one of the primary means that people end up learning and canonizing. They're basically Bible fanfic, really. And they're full of original characters because when you have, a cycle of 32 plays about, the entirety of the sort of the bits of the Bible that people cared about, they started adding more and more characters because, like any normal nativity pageant that you might have at a school, people start just kind of, how you end up with, I don't know, I don't know if it's an American thing, but there'd be jokes like, oh yes, people would play the star or invent lengthy backstories for the goat. And medieval mystery plays were a lot like that. They had lots and lots of kind of additional characters, expanding on the kind of basic biblical tradition, and very often they would move the action into England. And there are two sets, Wakefield and York are the main ones we have surviving. And they're very bawdy. They're written in the vernacular, and they are dirty and weird and strange. And the one that kind of everyone loves to talk about is the second Shepherd's play, which is about the shepherds. And it is just Bible fanfic. It is pure fanfic. And it has these three shepherds. One is an old one, and he complains. But basically, the whole thing is like, God, the weather, am I right? And then the other one goes, oh, the women, am I right? And then it's like, oh, the gentry and the nobles, am I right? And then this kind of continues for some time, but in 13-line rhyming, very tightly alliterating couplet, verse sets. And then Mac shows up, and he has a German accent, and he's from the south. He's a bad guy. He has this kind of big monologue, and basically he wants to steal a sheep, and he's a scoundrel. You may recognize Mac from Mac the Knife, who is in a very popular song that was popular back in the 60s. It was kind of a hit song, but you're more likely to know it from Fallout, because Fallout included it. It is! Mac the Knife is in Fallout!
Well, no, I was just, you're drawing, saying that from the second Shepherd's play is the literary antecedent of Mac the Knife. Now, hold on. Are you getting back at me for the Renaissance drama thing?
It's the same character. He's called Mac. He's a scoundrel. He has a German accent. He's a folklore figure. He comes up in all sorts of places.
I mean, is he a folklore figure, or is he racism? Just really quickly, isn't he
We don't like Germans.
Well, I mean, what's weird is that he does have the German accent, but he's a Mac?
No, the Max is, he's from the South.
But South from somebody who... Okay, I'm going to shame myself here. Where is Wakefield located? Yorkshire. In England?
Yorkshire. It's the northeast.
Northeast. Okay, so yeah, the southern there means there's a lot of south. It doesn't mean he's German, but I've always... I mean, Mac to me, hey Mac, it's sort of a general sort of derogatory, but I've always suspected that also it's if you say, hey you Mick, that's not good. That's an insult. That's a racial insult. But isn't Mac the Scottish equivalent? It's a prefatory name bit?
It can be.
Okay, but I've derailed
us. Is a German figure who has a whole folk song tradition, who comes from medieval mystery plays. It's a thing.
Really? This is because I'm
really not making this up.
Here's the thing. If you had been making it up, I would have loved you for it, and it would have been great. But I, for real, did not know that Mac the Knife was this folkloric figure. This is amazing. This is why I want to talk with you all the time about this stuff.
Point. Yeah, and sorry. So, they go to sleep. He steals a sheep. Just one sheep, because I don't know, he's unambitious like that. So, he bundles it up and he goes to see his wife, Gil, and she hides the sheep as their baby. She swaddle the sheep, and they pretend it's her baby. And then later on, the shepherds, they wake up, they notice the sheep is missing, and they show up, and they're like, give us back our sheep. And there's this fantastic sequence where the shepherds are basically going, "That's our sheep." And then she's like, "No, it's my darling baby." And they're like, "No, but it has horns." And then she's like, "No. You see, elves showed up and cursed the baby. It's that's what it is, like, you know. And then they're like, "No, it's got an earmark. It's like an earmark. It shows it belongs to me." And then, you know, this resolves. Mac gets shoved into a bag, and then the angel shows up, and then they do the whole thing again, the whole visiting a baby. But it's in reverse, because this time the woman is very lovely because she's Mary, and she's not, you know, an angry lady. And they meet the Lamb of God, who is a savior, and not, you know, one of their own sheep swaddled up, pretending to be a human baby. So they're and that's basically that's it. That's the whole story. And you can very obviously see there's a lot of potential for physical comedy and shouting at each other and panto going on there. I absolutely love the whole "this sheep is my baby" sequence. It's very farcical, but you can also see kind of a kind of almost subversive, kind of that mixing of the sacred elements of, they're gonna, you know, these are the shepherds who are gonna see the Lamb of God, but before they met the Lamb of God in the prequel, they met an actual lamb, so who's pretending to be a baby, and it's kind of this weird parallel thing, which is both kind of very, well, I think it's funny, and it's not that, you know, these people were trying to make fun of Jesus per se. You know, this is, you know, VeggieTales exists and is very is you know, a sincere act of faith. You know, you can make jokes about something you believe in.
And that's what I've heard in terms, and it's reading some of this. The language is tricky, you know. If you don't read Middle English, it's yeah, it takes a little bit to get into. Although if you speak German, it's a little easy to slide into Middle English. But what is more difficult is there's some cultural stuff you can understand where it's like, okay, these people, they live in huts. Like, their lives are very different. But the even harder thing is, like, the bigger cultural shifts, like, what is considered acceptable humor? And
A lot of dick jokes.
yeah, so many dick jokes. It's so, and the way that my old medieval drama prof explained it is, he's like, we now these days have a concept of like high humor and low humor. It's like, oh, that's vulgar, but you know, this humor is the good humor. This is the clean humor. This is the better person humor. This isn't fart jokes or whatever. And you know, and the one that I remember, and I don't think it was Wakefield, but it's the piece of drama. I can't remember the title of it here, but effectively the whole play is they're carpenters. And
Is this the one where they make the nail for the Christ?
they're actually talking, like, and at a certain point in this play, and again, you got to remember how these things are staged. Like, these things are like maybe on a raised platform, maybe on a wagon, like a trooper wagon, of the sort that I stole the idea of from my books. But so it's like these things are happening in a physical space, like, and you know, they don't have $10 million to drop on, you know, CGI. So like a lot of the conversation is happening as these carpenters, they have made the cross that they're hanging Jesus on, and it's the crucifixion. And they're all giving each other shit because like they made it crooked. And it's like, oh, he doesn't fit on it very good. Have you read this one? Is this ringing a bell for you?
I'm trying to remember, is this if this is the one where I think I know a different one where they basically they're looking for someone to make the nails, and no one would make the nails, and finally the blacksmith's wife basically says, I'm going to do it, because mystery players have a very uneasy relationship with women.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Women are not very like, with the exception of Mary, they're just not very flatteringly portrayed at all. So Gil is perhaps the best. Oh no, in Herod you have some mothers whose babies get murdered, and that one they get to beat up the soldiers, so that was pretty good.
Yeah. But the one that I remember, it was all about the carpenters, and so they're talking about, like, and it's a little Three Stooges, because they've got the cross and they're like, well, get him on there. And they're like, you're an idiot. You made this crooked. And they're like, well, it's not like they're going to use it a bunch more. It's just got to last for a while. And it's like, yeah, but it's making our job hard. We got to get him on here. And it's like, well, just stretch him, just like stretch him. It's like, and you're like, nowadays you're like, they're talking about Jesus here? Like, this is a church play? And it's like, and there's a lot of, like, imagine the Three Stooges crucify Jesus is a weird mashup that, like, you would think.
I mean, the Life of Brian does exist.
Actually, yeah. No, there you go. There you go. That is.
It's basically just that.
But what it was is they would do all of this, and then it's like, how do we, but then at the end, they put up the cross. And so again, like, this is your big budget SFX, where they've been making all these jokes, and you're like, oh, we all know what it's like to make something and it doesn't work out. Or, oh, we all know what it's like to work with something that somebody banged together and it's shitty, but you still have to do your job. Ha ha. It's like, it's very relatable. And then they're like, okay, and whoop, and they put the cross up on this stage. And, like, imagine this, where you've kind of been yucking it up, and there is Jesus on the cross. And then the carpenters have, like, kind of a transformatory experience where they're like, and the whole play changes a little bit. So it was like, but also, like, that humor wasn't viewed as inappropriate, because as students, we read it and we showed up to class to talk, and we're like, how did these people not get burned at the stake for witchery, making Jesus on the cross jokes? And they're like, everybody did. Like, that was just good theater. Yeah. So, okay.
But it's lowbrow in the sense that it is performed in the vernacular.
Yeah.
And that's kind of also why we have very bad survival of it, because people didn't care to preserve it, because it's, this is for the cheap seats. It's meant to be relatable to peasants. It's not high theater. It's not, I don't know, the Lays of Mary de France, or it's not stuff written at court for Eleanor Aquitaine or whatever.
Yeah. So I'm going to hit the pause button here. So I'm going to briefly talk about Worldbuilders. Now, I actually don't know, Jeanette, if do you prefer Jeanette? I know that's sort of your name, but, like, on my books it says Patrick, but I'm mostly a Pat. Is there something you'd like to be called other than Jeanette?
I get called Net or Nettle sometimes.
Oh, okay.
My parents called me Jen, so
okay.
My friends call me Net.
Okay. So, I don't know if you happen to know about Heifer International specifically as charity, and I don't know if you know much about Worldbuilders either, because we've kind of just started hanging out and chatting the last little bit. Except, no, I think that's not true.
You haven't told me before, but please tell me again, Pat, for the benefit of the stream.
See, now Gray's in the chat. See, that's a straight line. This is how you like open the door for the discussion. Although now that I'm thinking, I'm having, like, a weird memory of me saying something like, hey, and you're like, yeah, of course I know. Did you already tell me that at one point? It's okay to say.
I have read your Wikipedia entry, Pat Rothfuss.
Okay, good. Okay.
You are like famous.
I'm famous. That's a terrifying thought. So anyway, we have two entities in play. One of them is Heifer International, which is a very long-standing charity that I feel it's a real crime that they do not have the brand recognition of a lot of other charities that like the Red Cross or the United Way, or a lot of those charities, everybody knows them, or the Salvation Army. And my purpose here is not, there you go. My purpose here is not to talk shit about a bunch of other charities, but just to be clear, see, I don't want to start beef with the Salvation Army, but kind of fuck the Salvation Army.
We'll not talk about the Salvation Army.
Like,
it's okay. In our head, it's fine.
Because here's the thing. If you're watching this, odds are you are some flavor of geek, and that means you're some flavor of smart, and that means that because you also observe the world, that not everybody is what they seem to be. And by extension, not all charities actually are great. And some of them pretend to do good. Or some of them maybe try to do good, but maybe they're not good at it. Or maybe they used to do good and then something went wrong. Or maybe they're just really inefficient. Or maybe what was considered good 30 years ago is no longer okay. And so, so hear me when I say Heifer International, I have done a ton of research into them. And here's the thing. They've made mistakes in the past. They've been around for 75 years. And sometimes the best thing you can do, given the available data 50 years ago, like, we smarter now. So Heifer, in my opinion, is unique in that they did their best, and they've been helping people all over the world for ages. And sometimes that means they change what they do so they can be better at it, and then they cop to the fact that they're like, boy, we made a huge fucking mistake all those years ago. This wasn't an efficient use of resources. We wanted to give people animals so that they could control their own food supply. And we thought it was best to have a big ranch here, and then we'd ship them over there. And now we know that we kind of fucked up the genetic stock in a lot of these long-standing breeds in Africa. And so we stopped doing that, and now we're working to repair that damage. But also, those people did get food. It's how about this? Let's frame it positively, because I constantly engage in negative cognition. They are constantly getting better at what they do. And they are constantly acknowledging their mistakes, which allows them to be agile and to improve themselves and not double down and dig in, which is traditionally what a lot of big entities do. So for 75 years, Heifer has helped people all over the world become more self-reliant, and they focus primarily on making sure that people become I'm forgetting my term, food resilience, food independence. I'm forgetting my terminology here, but effectively there's a lot of charities. It's like, this person's hungry, help us give them a bag of rice. And anybody with a brain in their head, it's like, oh, I do want to help a hungry person. And then you're like, but don't they then run out of rice? That doesn't feel good. Heifer goes in and provides tools, training, and materials so that they can then have a constant improvement in their life. For example, flock of chickens. Those chickens make eggs. The family gets to eat eggs. It's often referred to as the perfect protein, something that is hard to come by in a lot of cultures. Also, chickens make eggs. Eggs make more chickens. It's It's a very tidy cycle. That means you can then have more and more chickens that make more and more eggs. And then you sell eggs. And then you have an income stream that's reliable. Also, you're providing food to your community, which they like. And so suddenly a family that maybe didn't know where its food was coming from has a small business that also feeds them. And that's what Heifer does, except they do it in 1,000 other ways too with sheep. And then they help people develop wool industries and knitting industries. Or if sheep aren't right for the local ecosystem, they help them with alpaca. If goats don't work, then maybe they bring in bees or tree seedlings. They help people get clean water. They send young girls to school. They help people use their water more efficiently and learn about agriculture and animal husbandry. They're amazing, and they do everything everywhere for so long. Generally speaking, $20 is enough for them to provide a family with a flock of chicks that then make eggs and improve their lives forever. 120 is enough for a goat. And then if the family has protein and calcium in their diet, and then you sell the extra milk. There's a classic story that I read on YouTube years ago. It's called Beatrice's Goat. And this young girl in Africa, she's like, her mom's like, be excited. We're getting a lucky gift. We're getting a goat. And she's like, that's great, Mom. And then leaves, and she's like, what the fuck is this goat going to do for me? And then spoiler alert, by the end of it, like, she learns how to take care of the goat and milk the goat. She and her brother get to drink the milk. They sell the extra money, and it's enough for her to buy a school uniform and books. And then she gets to go to school, which is something she always wanted to do. So, like, you might not think that giving somebody a goat means that their child can then grow up to be successful, but it means that they're healthy, and it means that they have money to get an education. It's amazing. That's who we're supporting. Worldbuilders is the charity that I accidentally started, and that now we all are in the middle of right now. We're just starting. So right now, if you want to make the world a better place, and I expect you do, because honestly, most people do, if you can kick in whatever money you got, throw it into the fundraiser. We pass 100% of that to Heifer International. A lot of charities that do fundraisers, they like take a little bit off the top to like keep their lights on and pay their employees and like buy computers and shit. We don't. If you put that money in, it 100% goes to Heifer. Worldbuilders pays its own bills. And right now, also, all of the money is doubled because we have matching donation from the Humble Bundle community. So if you want to do some good in the world, you can come on in. Your donation is doubled. But wait, there's more. We're giving away more than $100,000 worth of books and games and other stuff, including those of you that were here in the stream last hour. 3 beautiful modular wormwood tables that you can design yourself. If you're a gamer, you already know about wormwood tables. And if not, stick around, we'll show you. Again, we're giving away so much cool, beautiful stuff. So win things, save the world, double up. And as an added bonus, in this dark time, where if you're like me, sometimes you really struggle to get through the day because there's a lot of stuff that ain't great. And also the pandemic, and also politics, and also climate change. And you're like, how even can I...
Global ride of fascism.
Fuck fascism, man. And it's like, why am I even getting out of bed? Can't I just not ever deal with anything again? How can I fix these elections? How can I, whatever? If you're like me, you feel powerless a lot. And when you feel powerless, you feel helpless. And that sucks. But what I'm telling you is that if you come in and you donate $30, Um, you will change a family's life forever because Heifer can take that money and teach them how to raise honeybees. They have a cash crop of honey and wax, and their garden plot suddenly produces at 200% efficiency because they're getting better pollination. And then Heifer, you know, will teach them to take the money they get from honey, and then maybe they buy chickens, maybe they buy tree seedlings, and all of these things get better forever. And if you give us some money, even if times are rough for you right now, and even if some of the roughness of that is economic, trust me, come in and drop some money on the fundraiser. You'll immediately feel better. And I'll actually, I've said it before in the stream, I'll back it up. Guaranteed money back. Drop some money in the fundraiser, and if immediately you don't feel good about the fact that like you have helped someone in the world have a better life forever, kids get to wake up and eat food, parents get to go to bed and not worry about how they're going to feed their kids, you know that you did that for real. It's a good feeling. We can't fix everything in the world. All you can do is what you can do. And so if you come in and do it with us, I'm vouching for Heifer. Look into them. They're great. Also, it'll double your donation. Also, you can win some cool stuff. There's no downside here, folks. Also, they do clean water. Also, they do biogas. Also. Heifer is amazing. The end. I talked up all of our drama time with Charity, Jeanette. I'm sorry. Now, we can still let's say each of us one thing that we love about the Wakefield plays that we haven't talked about yet. Just so we can feel like we got some of it out. I'm gonna go. No, you go first. You go first.
I was going to share the fun fact that loan shark is actually it's a coincidence. It's not actually reference to shark. Shark originally meant scoundrel. It's a shared root.
I like that.
So in you could see it in German as well, but shark meant scoundrel, and loan shark came from that, and then that was then applied to the animal, and that's now why we think loan shark is a shark.
That's amazing. That makes me feel a lot better. I worked really hard to come up with the term for loan shark in my world, because I couldn't just say loan shark because it feels way too colloquial.
You can, because it's actually scoundrel. And
well,
not...
I still wouldn't feel good about that because technically it's the same way that I can't feel good about saying something Spartan in my world. I mean, technically,
I was thinking it was like more like the Tiffany problem.
Yeah.
Where Tiffany is sounds like a very modern name, but it's actually like dates way back to the Middle Ages.
Yep. For me, it's I created an elaborate, complex, real etymology that I then obscured with a fake etymology for this one term that comes up one time in the book. Because
book etymologies are great.
Yeah. That's my jam. I want to say the Wakefield plays and a lot of these, if you can get over the language itself, which is to say it's not quite English, it's Middle English, which means it's like a hybrid, it's the labradoodle of English.
There are versions which print it in a sort of modern spelling English, but the problem with trying to read those is that it loses the poetry. The kind of the cadence of the poetry is lost, and that's kind of like a toss-up where they're way easier to read, kind of from a modern audience point of view, because it's English you recognize, but because words now have the wrong number of syllables. And kind of we got started talking about this because I was talking about how much I loved alliteration. And the Wakefield plays are kind of fascinating because they have a very, very tight rhyme structure. So the famous ones have the 13 stanzas. So they rhyme. Oh God, is it A B A B A B CCCDD.
I've got it right here. It's called a button hook. No, even the most pretentious, like berate
Yes.
poetry dude ever never wrote
Cartoons.
something this articulate and beautiful. He goes A B A B A B A B C D D D C.
No, there are only 3 sets. There are 13 lines.
Well, I'm looking at the button hook.
Okay. Oh no, you're right. You're right.
Um, and so,
Yep. Yep.
and I wish I had my medieval drama text with me here. I went looking for it, and all I could find is Chaucer. Um, but
Chaucer's good too.
it's good. What this really means is that we have not dug in nearly as much as we could or we want to. And
I was going to
this,
convince you to read some out loud.
I was about to, but this is a horrible. I'm looking for a really good. It's easier for me to read Chaucer. Well, how about this? Uh, oh, I'm reading it, guys. It's so good and it's funny. It's so funny. But you know what? It's the end of the hour,
Yep.
and so how about this? Do you want to at some point come back and we'll just read
Sure.
some of this? We'll pick out pieces, and we'll read our favorites, and we'll have beautiful digressions, and you can teach me about folklore that I did not know. Does that sound fun?
I love the sound of my own voice.
That's why we get along so good. And also, I will say, people in the chat, they're like, "She's amazing. She's one of the few people that can get in a word in around Pat." And I'm like, "That's why I like talking with you. You won't let me just talk a wall." So again, you're amazing. You're so kind. Thank you for coming in and helping us spread the word. And I'll ping you, either just me and you. I do want to hang out and just chat. Or maybe if you're available over the next couple of weeks, if you'd like, maybe we can schedule another hour. And by then I'll have found my text, and we can read back and forth to us our favorite
Sure.
pieces
You
from
you
these
could read
plays.
Herod the Great, because that one has the villain monologue bits. And
Yeah.
it's just this one long panto villain monologue where he goes, "I will kill the baby so hard."
It's
Basic like, and then he gets really angry because they don't know where the baby is, and then obviously they have an idea they're gonna kill all the babies and it's gonna be great. And it's just this long panto sequence.
it's the origin of the expression "Don't out Herod Herod." That's where it came from.
But anyway, yes, time. I don't want to
No, I
leave the
should.
next person waiting.
I will hop again. Thank you so much, and I'll ping you if you're available over the next couple of weeks. I feel like you've already done us a great kindness, but everybody, maybe you get to see
I'll pop in again.
Jeanette again. Bye.